Call this meeting to order. Tonight, when we observe our moment of silence, I ask that everyone please, as we go into the 20th anniversary of 9/11, remember all of those that we lost, both here and abroad, throughout the 20 years. During this time, I always kind of go back and listen to some of those first responder radio calls, the calls from the air traffic control towers when they're talking to people in the planes, and I think it's a good reminder to remind us of that event that day and the heroes that ran into the burning buildings and never came out, and those people who were in the plane over Pennsylvania who decided to take it down. The bravery was unbelievable and has been for 20 years. So let's, the contributions of everybody over 20 years not be in vain, and let's remember that during our moment of silence tonight.
And I will add, I will never forget that day. My son was in the Twin Towers and got out of there 30 minutes before the first plane hit.
Great. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
And we also have the American flag back there that has all the names of the people that died in it.
Yeah, it's something that I don't think any of us that were alive then will ever forget, where we were and what we felt that day and what we've felt since then. So,
yeah, my boss at Ford told me, I'll go down on the floor, walk around, try and get it off your mind, because I had no idea if he was still in that building.
Yeah, that's a tough thing, Bob. A lot of people affected by that forever. So, roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julia Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan. Here. Richard Sharp.
Here.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
I am present. Rick Eberly.
Present.
David Austin.
Present. We have a quorum. Start with public comment on agenda items. Any public comment on agenda items? Third call. Public comments closed. We have our consent agenda, the minutes of the August 3rd, 2021 and August 17, 2021 meetings, tag day requests for Rick Larson Wrestling Club 10/2/21, the rain date of 10/9 of 21, claims, all town funds $248,655.13, wastewater operating $187,372.50, water utility of $69,562.07, stormwater of $7,477.81, payroll for 8/19/21, 9/1/21, and 9/2/21 of $515,396.17. Is there a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda as listed?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julia Rivera. Yes. Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, carries 7-0. Ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 1390, amended and restated waterworks bond ordinance. Mr. Sharp by its title. Mr. Austin, explanation.
Ordinance number 1390, an amended and restated ordinance of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing the acquisition, construction of certain additions and improvements to the waterworks of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds to provide funds for the payment of the cost thereof, addressing other matters connected therewith, including the issuance of notes in anticipation of bonds, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
This is an amendment to an ordinance you adopted last year authorizing the issuance of bonds, water bonds for your water utility and improvements on the east side of town. It's been amended by bond counsel for purposes of expanding the financing availability or financing opportunity and strategies to include use of funding through the SRF program in Indianapolis.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of ordinance 1390, as well as an explanation. Is there a motion to approve the first reading?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 1390.
Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven? Yes. Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Is there a motion to suspend the rules? To allow for a second reading.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules for a second reading.
Motion by Ms. Scheven,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sharp, ordinance 1390 by its title only, second reading.
Ordinance number 1390, an amended and restated ordinance of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing the acquisition, construction of certain additions and improvements to the waterworks of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds to provide funds for the payment of the cost thereof, addressing other matters connected therewith, including the issuance of notes in anticipation of bonds, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and all matters related hereto.
Thank you. You've heard the second reading of ordinance 1390. Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Motion by Ms. Rivera. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Scheven. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 2 is ordinance 1393, establishing background check fees for the police department. Mr. Sharp, by its title only, please.
Ordinance number 1393, an ordinance establishing fees and charges to be collected for local background check services provided by the town police department and all matters related thereto.
Chief Fisher?
We had a discussion today during our meeting. We're asking that the council defer this. We're going to look into our fee structure for quite a few things that we found that we need to correct and amend it to have one ordinance that establishes fees for each one under one ordinance rather than have multiple ordinances for the same thing.
Okay.
So, I just had a question for the chief. So, do people come to the window and say, hey, I need a background check
Yes.
on myself, or what?
Yes.
For jobs or
For jobs.
something?
Correct.
Oh, okay. I never realized that.
Yep.
That was an issue.
Yeah, they can either consent to an employer to run a background check or they can do it themselves.
Oh, wow.
Certain information we can't give them, but we fill out some forms that they provide to us,
Gotcha. For the basics.
run the information on them, correct?
I'll make a motion to defer ordinance number 1393.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman, second by Mr. Carnahan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes?
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Items deferred. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Item 3 is ordinance 1394, annexation petition introductory ordinance, 10702 West 141st Avenue, Michael Neubauer. Mr. Sharp, by its title only, please.
Ordinance number 1394, an ordinance annexing certain contiguous land to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. Whom do we have at the podium?
Hi, I'm Mark Anderson of Anderson & Anderson, 9211 Broadway, Merrillville, Indiana. It's here on behalf of Michael Neubauer and the owner petitioner 141 Partners LLC. This is the 8.04 acre parcel that is surrounded on all sides by the town, looking for annexation.
Mr. Austin?
Pro forma, you have an introductory reading of annexation ordinance tonight that will beg the next actions of notice for public hearing on the fiscal plan policy resolution consideration, which would then beg the next step in final consideration of the annexation ordinance if approved.
Thank you.
There's about a 90-day period involved in this.
And this is east of the middle school and south of Lennar?
Correct.
West of Lamar.
West of Lennar.
It's the wedge,
Yeah,
basically
East
the
of
wedge.
East of middle school, west of Lennar. That's correct.
And Mr. Neubauer has tremendous idea for that area that's not houses and is going to be greatly enhanced and use the area very well.
And Mr. Neubauer is here this evening.
Okay, you've heard the introductory reading of ordinance 1394. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We'll look forward to the next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Neubauer. Item 4, ordinance, you're staying up here, right? Do you need a seat? Stool. Item 4 is ordinance 1395, annexation petition, introductory ordinance 12416, Wicker Avenue, Rory Ravens. Mr. Sharpbite's title only, please.
Ordinance number 1395, an ordinance annexation certain contiguous land to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, I'm Mark Anderson of Anderson & Anderson on behalf of CL Leasing LLC and Rory Ravens, its owner. This is a parcel located, like I said, at 12416 Wicker Avenue. It's a 1.5 acre parcel. Similar to the last request, looking at the introductory ordinance, and then I've talked with Attorney Austin today about the process for moving forward here. So we anticipate being in front of you 2 more times,
Okay.
at least.
Thank you.
Pro forma, same as the last, and in order for
Very good.
introductory reading.
Is there a motion by the council for the approval of the introductory reading of ordinance 1395?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnan, is there a second?
Second, Bob.
Second by Mr. Foreman. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 5 is ordinance 1396. Rezone Borsma Weirs Electric 12828 Wicker Avenue from B1 to B3. Mr. Sharpbite's title, please.
Ordinance number 1396, an ordinance reclassifying certain lands in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, for zoning purposes and amending town ordinance number 496, being an ordinance replacing zoning ordinance number 278, entitled Cedar Lake, Indiana zoning ordinance, passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the town of Cedar Lake, Indiana, and all amendments passed subsequent thereto, repealing zoning ordinance number 278, all amendments thereto, and all ordinances or part of ordinances in conflict herewith, establishing new comprehensive zoning regulations for the town of Cedar Lake, and providing for the administration, enforcement, and amendment thereof, in accordance with the provisions of the Indiana state statute. Passed by the Town Council of the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, the 13th day of December, 1989, and all amendments passed subsequent thereto.
Thank you. Mr. Everly?
Yes, Mr. President, you have the certification of the Plan Commission from its recommendation to the council, a unanimous recommendation to the council for consideration of the rezoning of this property from B1 to B3.
Thank you. And this also was contemplated in our update of our comprehensive master plan for that B3 zoning along the
Commercial area there, yes.
Yeah. Okay, is there a motion by the council to approve the rezone as recommended through the certification of the Plan Commission from B1 to B3 for 12828 Wicker Avenue?
Mr. President, one reading.
Mr. Austin?
One reading,
Okay, one reading.
adopted reading.
This is the adoption, so is there a motion to
I'd like to
adopt?
make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1396, the rezone of the 12828 Wicker Avenue.
Motion by Mr. Foreman,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Carnahan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Ordinance 1396 adopted. Item 6, ordinance 1397 is the system-wide development ordinance, introductory reading only. Mr. Sharp by its title, Mr. Austin.
Ordinance number 1397, an ordinance of the Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, amending the town water utility system development charge rate to establish a single rate for the system development charge, authorized and approved to be collected under tariffs approved by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, repealing all water utility rate ordinances and all parts thereof, or in conflict herewith and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. Mr. Austin.
This ordinance presents to you the opportunity to support the petition that was filed before the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to consolidate into a single town water system-wide system development charge rate. Presently, and from the time of acquisition of the water utilities by the town, there have been separate or disparate system development charge rates. When we finished our last petition before the commission last year, we left that proceeding with orders and directions of the IURC to consolidate at a time certain, but on or before September 1st. We made the September 1st deadline. The timing of the filing was consistent with the orders of the IURC. The petition now is being prepared and evidence is being submitted by your consultants and expert staff. This ordinance supports that evidence and testimony by consolidating into a single tariff, the system development charge rate. That amount will be system-wide, at least based upon the report of your staff members, $2,703, $2,703, payable by new users to our water utility, not existing customers at all. That's what this ordinance does. It's an introduction only. You can see I've left things blank, such as costs and amounts, because we don't know those yet. Those are things that will occur through the course of the proceeding. You will be back here on a public hearing before our own constituency to adopt an ordinance or consider adoption when we get past the petition proceedings in Indianapolis.
And once this is done, then our obligations to the deals that were made with the IURC and the OUCC will be fulfilled.
Hopefully.
Great.
I expect so.
Okay, you've heard the introductory reading of ordinance 1397 and an explanation. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 1397.
Motion by Ms. Scheven. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion?
No, again, this is for new homes.
Yeah,
If and
be
when
added to
it's enacted, just so
the
the
price of
public
a permit.
Clear.
Yep. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
I'm gonna say no, this was just sat here tonight in front of me and I haven't had a chance to look at it.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 6-1. Item 7 is resolution number 1288, master lease agreement, police vehicles. Mr. Sharp by its title, and Ms. Sandberg.
Resolution 1288, a resolution authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a master agreement, lease purchase agreement, the agreement, for certain town vehicles and equipment and all related instruments and all other matters related thereto.
Council, if you'll remember, quite a few months ago, you approved the purchase of some new police vehicles Chief, 3 Durangos and a truck. It has been a process trying to get these vehicles, but we're finally able to get the first of the 4 vehicles, so we're ready to enter into the master lease agreement. This, DeMont State Bank had the lowest interest rate. They work with BB Community Leasing Services Incorporated. So this agreement will be between us and them. So this is entering into the master lease agreement, and then we have the first vehicle on this one, and then as we get each subsequent vehicle, then we'll be adding a schedule to this master lease agreement, kind of like we've done in the past with tax-exempt leasing corps every time we enter into a new agreement with them. So this first vehicle is a Durango, and the total price on this vehicle is, I had it right in front of me a second ago, just over $43,000 for this first one. But I was able to work it out with BB Community Leasing that our first payment would be in arrears, and it wouldn't begin until January of 2022. That is our hopeful anticipation. We will have all vehicles before the end of this year, and so then payments would begin. Within your packet, you should have a copy of the lease agreement and the said payment schedule.
What is the interest rate on this?
Forgive me, but I did not pull out my previous folder with me, and I should have. I honestly cannot remember it off the top of my head.
Rick, can you advertise this real quick and figure out what the interest is?
Yeah.
Being the former
Yeah, I got everything but my,
calculator
here. Yeah.
That's, once you get those initials, you are.
Lots of brain cells.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it. Resolution 1288, master lease agreement up for consideration. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion.
Resolution number 1288 as presented.
Motion by Ms. Sheehan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. BZA Plan Commission, Item 1, Letter of Credit Centennial, Phase 15. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, this comes to you with a recommendation from the Plan Commission to accept the letter of credit in the amount of $82,029.20 for this 15th phase of Centennial.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council on the recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve the letter of credit for Centennial Phase 15?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Next item is the letter of credit, Rose Garden Estates Unit 3. Mr. Everly.
Similarly, Mr. President, this comes to you with a recommendation of the Plan Commission to accept this letter of credit in the amount of $1,913,079.85.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council on a letter of credit for Rose Garden Estates Unit 3 to approve based on the recommendation of the Plan Commission?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Okay, next we have new business, item 1, Peterson Consulting Services Agreement to assist in preparing the GASB 34 report for fiscal year 2021. Ms. Sandberg.
Council, if you'll remember, the last couple of years, we have asked Peterson Consulting to help us with our annual capital asset reporting to make sure everything is up to date. In discussing things with State Board of Council, they're here during their examination, capital assets will become, I guess, higher on State Board's priority list, so they will be doing some more in-depth examining of our capital assets, making sure our policies are up to date and that we're reporting how we should be reporting. I believe the amount has remained the same. It is $3,500.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council to approve the Peterson Consulting Services Agreement?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan, questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 2 is sewer elimination agreement for 14705 Dewey Street. Ms. Sandberg.
Council, this item has been inspected, sewer has been tapped off, and everything is in order and ready for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, questions or discussion?
This is in South Shore subdivision, right?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so. Dewey Street down there.
Kathleen, is this the address that we tore the house down years ago, or?
This is Dewey, so I'm not exactly sure. It's not one that we've recently torn down.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think it is.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Colleen Scheven?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Reports, Town Council. Bob?
Okay. September 11th at 2 p.m., Cedar Lake Fire Department and St. Michael's Archangel National Catholic Church will be remembering a remembrance ceremony in memory of the tragic death of New York firefighters and other innocent people, and that's at 2 p.m. So let's keep that in mind. And then mark your calendar, the Chamber is celebrating their 50th anniversary, and that will take place Friday, October the 8th at the Lighthouse Restaurant, and tickets are $75. And also, this Saturday, Household Hazardous Waste Collection will take place September 11th at the Lowell Middle School, North Parking Lot, and that's 19250 Klein Avenue from 9 to 2 p.m. So if you have any household hazardous waste, they no longer take paints anymore.
Hey, Bob, what was the date on the chamber event?
October the 8th.
October 8th?
Friday,
night?
Friday, October the 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Council reports. I have several. First, is there an update on the progress on Bartlett Wahlberg Park, the bathroom and picnic facilities?
We have gotten when I say we, Tim and I both received some correspondence from the architect. They are completing the plans for that, Randy, and the expectation is still that that will be out for bid and constructed yet this construction season.
Okay.
Yep.
Now that we have the census data, we need to undertake the process of redistricting locally.
Yes, sir.
I was a part of the council last time, and our town manager at the time, Ian Nicolini, worked diligently on that with folks from the county and with the council in following the statute on how to redistrict, keeping things within certain census tracts.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see us get that done here in the very near future. There's been a lot of growth in the town, especially in the west side, that needs to be considered as we try to balance the ward maps, make sure that the community is properly represented. So if we can make that a priority, I'd love to get to work on that so this is done by the end of the year. We go into the next year's election season with a clean map. Things are balanced well, and we can move forward.
Right.
And
Go ahead.
we try to get an equal amount of population in each ward.
As close as we can.
Yeah.
Within the census tracts.
Right.
You know, some of the laws may get cumbersome in certain areas, but, we got pretty close last time, but
Yeah.
the west side has grown so much, and especially my ward, that some of it's gonna have to be moved.
Right. There can be no more than a 10% variation between the most populous ward and the least
Right.
populous ward, so, that we need to keep in mind when we're doing the redistricting.
Do you need any certain people to work with on that, Rick, to get that done?
Well, I was gonna ask you, is that something that a council subcommittee wants to be involved with, or just specific those among you, or?
I thought Ian Nicolini took care of it the last time.
I've worked with Ian on it, some myself, and then it was presented to the council for consideration. It would be good if there was some input, right, but I think
Yeah, I would think so too, because we know the town much better than Rick, and
But I
to
think
grow
they have-
on the west side, I think
have maybe
a subcommittee makes sense.
maybe have the staff put together kind of a rough draft.
Yeah, that would
first,
be good. At least we have a starting point.
as a way to have kind of a guidepost, so we're not grasping at straws.
Absolutely.
And I think the main thing is keeping in mind, you know, the balance that needs to be achieved from a population standpoint.
Right.
And just for the public out here, according to the United States Census, our population went up 22%, which it was only 14,106, which I think it should have been higher.
And based on the amount of addresses that we have, we're probably closer to 19,000.
But we're only gonna get money for 14,106.
But under those numbers of the census, we have to come up with every 10 years legislative maps like every entity does. We don't have quite the gerrymandering opportunities that the state and federal government do. So ours, last time, I think we ended up actually, when we redistricted, we districted out one of our incumbents, so it was really done fairly. Patsy was actually on the council at that time, and her and Greg ended up in the same district. So it was done based on numbers. It was how we did it here, so we expect that we'll do it that same way again this time and create some balance and make sure that for the next 10 years, the community is properly represented. My next one was, there's been a lot of rumors about the idea that I introduced earlier this year about an athletic complex on the 114-acre parcel that the town owns. I've been working with our consultants with Veritas Group to get us in touch with a consultant who can facilitate an initial meeting, a visioning meeting, where community stakeholders, people who are involved in providing the local athletic services like Cedar Lake Little League, softball, football, soccer, whoever would be interested in participating in a facility like that, to be a part of a visioning meeting where their ideas and input can be considered in developing a concept for something like that. So that is something that I'm working on getting on the books. I'm shooting for sometime in October. With any kind of luck, we can nail down a consultant to help us with that first meeting. As I've told several people with several of the groups, all I'm doing is taking input that I've gotten from citizens around the community over the 3 terms I've served on this council and applying it to something that people said they desire. We have an opportunity now with the growth to do something like this of a large magnitude, and at the end of the day, it's going to be the stakeholders that are involved that will really develop this. We're just facilitating. So this is a matter of creating the platform for those who have passion for those types of things to take it and run with it. There's been a lot of rumors that the town is going to eminent domain the current softball and baseball fields. That has zero truth to it. So if we have nothing to do with property that's owned by somebody else right now. So that was never a part of it. We're just concerned with the use of the property that the town owns. Next thing was, we had a a couple of council affairs meetings to discuss the 2022 budget. The last meeting, I felt like we really took a step closer to getting there. The department heads have submitted their requests. One of the things that we had discussed in the development of the sustainability plan that we did earlier this year with O.W. Crone is looking at how do we take miscellaneous revenues that are derived from the growth of the community through building permit fee collections, which go into our general fund, and utilize those to help supplement the needed growth of our services until the property tax collection takes the place of the miscellaneous revenue. That was kind of the first concept of, okay, we need to grow our services, but we don't always get the property taxes right when the home is built. So what we came up with in this last meeting was that based on requests of our department heads, and namely in public safety, we had a hole to fill of about $450,000 compared to current revenues and requests. Based on our calculations of our miscellaneous revenues and our cash balances, we can sustain about, if we did $450,000 a year over the next 4 years, that was an area where we thought that could be possibly sustained. Corby was looking into it to look at the sustainability of it. And what we want to do is plug in numbers that even if everything stopped today, there were no more permits pulled, how much of a cash balance do we have now that would get us through the next 4 years? Because that's about what it would take to get all that money into the till. What can we sustain for that 4 years in our current cash balances if there were no more permits pulled? So that's what's being considered. And if we can do that, then we can fill a substantial amount of the needs of our public safety services, especially, as well as come up with a yearly equipment replacement program for public works alongside of police and fire. So these are things that we're working on plugging into the system. The growth is something that has created a lot of pressure on services, and by utilizing cash in a strategic manner and not outpacing the growth that we've currently had, we can ensure that even in the worst case scenario, we're not taking measures of austerity 4 years from now in cutting people.
Right.
So that's the idea, is to make sure that we plug in the right pro forma, have the right business model that even in the worst scenario is sustainable. So,
Who's all on the budget committee again? You, Ralph?
myself, Ralph, and Rick, and Corby, and Jen, and everybody's really been dialed in this year. And, you know, we know that there's problems and challenges that everybody faces. We can only do so much, so it's a matter of finding that sustainable number and then adjusting things to fit that. But I think we're getting close. So we should have some solid final draft numbers from Corby very soon, things that we can work with, and we can make little slight adjustments where we need to make them and be ready to move forward. So I'm pretty optimistic that this sustainability plan that we adopted is actually starting to work. We're seeing that, okay, well, now we have some guidelines of how we can apply some of that money obtained from growth to things that aren't just kind of blowing it and then we wish we had it back, but we're taking that long-term approach to it. That was all I had for reports. Any other council reports?
I just want to thank Colleen for all she did for the Labor Day event on Sunday, and I think that you're awesome, and we're so lucky to have you, and I appreciate that you did that.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to make it back in town and stop down there, and while it wasn't a great turnout late in the afternoon, it was, that event with the last band was after the Artist Guild, so you had what's the proper term, demographic change in the music venue from the early hours of the afternoon to the latter.
It was a live and learn, so next year will be much better.
Yeah, good.
and see
No, you didn't.
where the fail was.
And I think we as a community should invest in some outdoor speakers that could also play towards the lake, that makes it easy for bands that do perform to plug in and transmit, if their amps allow, towards the lake, because there's a lot of people that do sit on that lake on Sunday afternoons and listen to the Artist
Well,
Guild,
I think-
and it's hard to hear.
We just need some speakers pointing that
Right,
way.
that's what I mean, but we should just have them and
You know,
take the
what,
covers off
Andy had brought that
and let
up to me
those
about
folks plug
making
in.
posts for the speakers to sit on,
That's a good
coming
idea.
right off the poles themselves,
That's a good
so
idea.
that you wouldn't need to stand.
Great idea.
You know, you could just bring your speakers and point them.
Because there's a lot of people there say, oh, I wish the music was louder, or, you know, when you talk to them.
There on
I mean,
the poles that would like to hear it, sure.
and they love the pier. I've gotten so many compliments on Mr. Fisher, you pulled that pier together and across the finish line with your team. It's amazing how many people have now parked their boat, walked up, checked out the museum, checked out the grounds, can't believe it. Used the bathrooms, what have you, so there's been many, many people telling that.
Worked out good. Thank you guys for letting us do it.
It's great.
We have two other items under council reports, the ordinance for collection of fire response fees and ambulance fees. These are actually two items we also discussed in the meetings as those revenue streams that can help make this sustainable. Mr. Ross, are there any updates?
I'm working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Todd did provide me some information.
Good.
I need to get with him.
We would like, if we can, to get those adopted prior to our budget adoption. That way we know we can incorporate a certain amount of revenue into that pro forma. Because we're gonna try and keep this thing as tight as we can to not outpace our growth.
Right. And the objective is not to have to make an adjustment next year midstream.
Well, yeah, it's cut down on the additional appropriations, get something in place that works. Okay, item 2, town attorney. Clerk treasurer.
Council, the town has received, and I have received the first distribution of the American Rescue Plan Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. The town, for its first distribution, has received just over $1.4 million. That is sitting in the appropriate fund. I believe it would be prudent to have council affairs or whomever, whichever committee you deem necessary, meet to discuss how we would like to see that expended.
Has the state given us a list now of what we can and can't use it for, or is that still being debated downstate?
So, in reading all the fine,
That means we'll,
in reading all the fine print that they've thrown out there, it is, from the way I understand everything, our best bet would be to use it to go towards water, wastewater infrastructure. That would be the smartest, because those uses are repeated multiple times throughout, the big massive amount of paperwork they've thrown out there. But ultimately, what it'll come down to is however council deems appropriate to spend that money and decides to spend the money, we're going to have to back it up with a lot of paperwork, back it up with a lot of attorney opinion letters, because that is what they will look for, because not only will I have to report to the Indiana Finance Authority, but by accepting these funds, I will also be responsible for reporting to the U.S. Treasury directly annually. So, however you all decide, we need to make sure that it's
So
on
if you
paper.
remember, John, in our sustainability plan, we had identified a portion of those funds for the eco-restoration project.
but we weren't sure if they.
Well, and in talking to our financial advisor, he thinks that it's available for that. But again, like Jen said, we have to be clear and careful with how we craft the language that allows us to appropriate that money.
Got it.
And let Dave refer to what we're spending on is correct to use.
Yes. And but our financial advisor is going to have to weigh in, our attorney is going to have to craft language
Sure.
that matches all the provisions. I mean, the federal government was clear as mud on this stuff.
Yeah, how about that?
Guidance to follow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what is even more shameful is when some counties in our state are hiring consultants to help them figure out how to spend it. So that's taxpayer dollar not going to taxpayers, so it's a mess.
Yeah, you have to pay somebody $200 an hour to help you figure out how to spend
That's
money that
crazy.
you don't have.
Probably $400 an hour, right?
Please don't take advice on federal government spending money.
We won't, don't worry.
There is recent data. You guys should all read it. They did change it quite a bit on far as what it can be spent for. There's more than just water infrastructure stuff.
Oh, right.
A lot of infrastructure could be used on.
Yeah, but it's changing like all the
Oh,
time.
yeah, but there's.
So the best thing is for us to have a plan,
Yeah.
make sure it's a clean plan, and move forward with it.
They're almost telling you could spend it on anything. Almost.
That isn't.
You just have to justify it, that's all.
Yeah, you
Right.
got to justify.
You have to justify it.
Well, I don't want to take that risk. You want to sign your name to it, chief?
Heck, if you read it, that's the interpretation that you'll get, trust me. If I read it.
Any other clerk treasurer? Town manager?
Mr. President, to follow up on your comments about the budget, we would like to plan for a public hearing on September 28th. It's not a normal council meeting night. We could push the envelope and go for the 21st, but Jen and I were discussing it today, and she discussed it with Corby. That's going to be awfully tight. We've got at least one more subcommittee meeting this week, this Thursday, to discuss this. If we can push this to the 28th, then that gives us a chance to meet 2 more times as a subcommittee, and really nail down the budget. So.
Yeah, because our normal first meeting in October, we will be at AIM.
We'll be at AIM, yeah. And we really don't want to push it beyond that. You can
I
go
agree.
as late as October 28th, I think.
You can go pretty late in October, but I would much rather make sure that we
We don't wanna
can
do
adopt
that,
it at our second meeting in October. That way I have ample time to make sure everything is proper and gateway to submit.
Yeah, we're
my
bound to have
deadline.
a few little tweaks and adjustments
Yeah.
as we kind of button it up, and once we get some of that final financial data back from Corby on our miscellaneous revenues and get the fire and ambulance fee stuff kind of plugged into the model, we're gonna be, yeah, I think that's good. Let's do the 28th,
Okay, you're all available, or enough of you are available on the 28th?
as long as we have
Were
4
we
of us.
looking at a JMOB meeting on that night?
Well, that's not, I haven't even heard from those folks yet, Ralph, but if we're doing JMOB, we were gonna do that at 6, so we could do the budget meeting or budget public hearing at 7.
Okay.
And it'd be fine,
That's all right,
yeah.
that popped
Thanks
up
for
on my
reminding me,
schedule.
yeah. Okay, we'll schedule that for the 28th, and that was it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Very good.
No Director of Operations here. Chief Fisher.
You, in your packet today, council, you received our monthly reports for the month of August, year to date. 1,298 calls for service in the month of August, for a total of 8,800 calls, 829 calls for the year. 97 state citations, 244 warnings were issued. We had 17 arrests over the month, 29 charges filed, 17 misdemeanor, 9 felony, 3 warrants, for a total number of arrests for the year 208 with 364 charges.
Business has been good.
Increasing rapidly.
Yeah, and hence why we're looking at ways to move this another step forward with public safety. Anything else, Chief Fisher?
Not at this time, sir.
Hey, Chief, it would be interesting to look at Labor Day, or Memorial Day to Labor Day over the last 5 years, and just look at, those months versus a sample of the good months throughout the rest of the year.
For calls you're talking about?
Just see how much the summer boating traffic brings that's correlated to that increase. It'd be an interesting,
It's definitely increased quite a bit. Our calls for service, so.
yeah, I would imagine it would.
Chief Wilkening?
So is our calls as well, as far as, the COVID calls are going up, starting to go up now quite a bit. We did have a call this afternoon where we had to stay at the hospital because they had no place to put our patient. And they were 10 deep, and they said the hospital was between 30 and 50 deep. So we're literally having to stay there with the patient on the cot while they try to find a place to put the patient, which keeps us at the hospital a lot longer.
Yeah.
Are you guys getting boosters, all the paramedics?
Getting boosters.
The new boosters?
COVID boosters.
It's not available yet.
It's not available.
Oh, it's not?
Chief,
I don't think it's anybody.
are the hospitals so packed because the nurses and doctors are refusing the vax, so they don't have beds for everybody?
No, what's happening is, there's a few things happening. Number one, there's a shortage of staff. And number two, there's the overrunning of calls, obviously, and they're unable to have certain staff, respiratory therapists, stuff like that. There's a lot of specialty staff that they're short on. So you can't open up an ICU, all of the ICU, because they have to have a certain amount of staff members per certain amount of patients. And that puts them in a really bad position, which is a trickle-down effect to EMS, because then we end up having to either bypass that hospital, which, by the way, in the last week, every single hospital in Northwest Indiana has been on bypass every day, all day. Which means that you gotta take them to the hospital no matter what. That means none of them are on bypass, but they go on bypass, which is also known as diversion. And it's because of this variant, it's causing havoc in the hospitals again. So, we're just, the turnaround time from going to and from the hospital is gonna be increased.
Chief, when you get these calls, and without sharing any confidential medical information, are the people that are being hospitalized in such a condition where they have to be hospitalized?
Yeah, because, one of the things I think the whole EMS service, including healthcare, learned from the last surge of this was, do you really need to be here? And that's one of the things where, the hospital even told us, if you think you have COVID and you're not symptomatic, do not bring them to our hospital.
Right.
Just tell them you're not going to transport.
That's what I was asking.
Right, but typically what ends up happening is that people wait till they're having a huge respiratory problem, and then they call, and a lot of times it's almost too late for that, because there's so much damage done that they end up going on a ventilator.
Last 3 days in Lake County, we've had 0 cases of COVID.
Yeah.
But the 4th day, we had 187.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
it looks like we're heading in the right direction.
Okay, well, I know the hospitals are packed full of people, and it's becoming a major problem. In fact, the hospital in Hammond actually closed, St. Margaret's did, north, and they actually have to ship their people to the outlying hospitals as well. Their ER is open, but the actual hospital.
Well, one of the problems we have here is we have kind of, with the population growth, especially in south of 30, we have a bit of a medical desert, and really there needs to be more medical development.
What the Franciscans are planning on doing, and this was in a meeting that we just went to recently, are doing specialty facilities, small hospitals. So if you're, St. John or...
You can kind of triage people then.
And then you go to that ER, if you're a cardiac problem, they automatically ship you to the cardiac hospital specialty within the region. They don't keep you. So that you'll probably eventually see one of those mini hospitals in pretty much every community. If the Franciscans have their way, because they're able to specialize in all that stuff, like a stroke center and stuff like that. But in the meantime, it's causing havoc for us, because we've got no place to take people at times, and then we have to wait very long periods of time. So that's the one thing. The Fireman's Ball, thank you very much for the great turnout. Our community we had a really good turnout. We raised around $14,000 for that night after expenses. I know there's a few things they're waiting to come back, but that's about the number we think that's going to be pretty accurate. So right around there.
Yeah, Tony did a great job organizing.
Tony did a fantastic job, like he always does. We end up having all the beer sold very quickly that night, so it was a nice warm night, and people were drinking it very, very fast. So it was a good turnout.
Anything else, Chief?
The remodel project is the upstairs. Hen and Sons almost has it completely done. Hopefully by the end of the week, the upstairs will be done, and we'll be able to move our folks up there, because right now they're sleeping all over the fire. Rick and Chief Fisher came to see it today and saw beds everywhere, and the guys are stretched out and like the slumber party, fire station, but.
It looked like MASH, huh?
It looked like a mash tent, yeah. And it's just dirty. I mean, it's messy because of all the construction, and it's driving me crazy for one, but, we're close to doing that, and then they'll start on the downstairs, so.
Well, it's
I'm hoping by
exciting.
Thanksgiving, everything is done.
Wow, that's good.
When did we start talking about that? Was that about 2 years ago that you and I met in your office?
Yeah.
We were kind of going through some of the
There's a,
wish list things, trying to figure out what the heck to do.
yeah. And the
That's
station
great.
needs a lot more work, so moving forward with the new building is gonna be very important, or we're gonna end up spending a lot of money in that building soon.
All right, thank you, Chief.
So, I think
Any written communication? Open public comment. If you have public comment, come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Robert Failer, 12828 Alexander Street, Cedar Lake.
How are you, Bob?
I'm good. I
Thanks
I
for
would
coming.
like some kind of recourse since the mask mandate, and I know this is a school issue, but I get nowhere with them. They reimposed the mask mandate over the holiday weekend. My child was from the get-go, we've been attending the school boards unmasked, otherwise you don't want to school, we'll find alternatives. Well, now there's a mask mandate. Well, last year, everyone came to the COVID fear and brought e-learning in. Why can't we do that for the people that don't want their child masked? What's the problem? I don't see it. If you're gonna cave to one side, make it so my child can stay in school and I don't have to go find a private teacher. It's ridiculous.
Your kids go to Hanover, Bob?
Yes.
Have you gone to meetings and brought that up?
Yes.
Well,
And they reimposed the mask mandate, so if my daughter goes to school tomorrow without a mask on, she'll be sent home. And I'm working in the city, so am I gonna leave work all the way to come home because she doesn't wanna wear a mask? I don't wanna wear a mask? There's reasons why we don't want her wearing a mask. Like if I work underground, we have a test to make sure that the underground is safe and we can breathe the air. You put that same test behind your mask, all the sirens go off, which tells you to get out of that area. So if I don't want my child breathing that, why should she be forced to be masked? Why can't we bring e-learning to the kids that don't want to wear a mask? Or the parents that don't want their kids masked? The school board has let me go. If not, if there's a way that I can freeze all of my taxes from funding anything that they want to do, redistribute it into any other division you guys want to, but don't fund that school.
I think our governor made it up.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he did.
He left it up to.
It's up to the
local
schools.
Yeah, he
But,
left it-
but for children that don't want to wear a mask, or that are unvaxxed because we don't believe in it,
Yeah.
or we're not buying the pandemic, we're forced with no
Right, but
alternative.
Bob, you understand, at this venue, you know, we have Hammer Township, we have Center Township, and we have Tri Creek Schools in our community,
Okay?
so we're kind of, well, we respect your comment, we're powerless, and there's nothing we can do to help you with this
So
call.
basically, what I'm asking for is, if I can't get help, can I freeze my tax dollars from funding anything they want to do? I don't want my money going, I don't care if it's 10 cents.
I would
Stop
say,
it.
that's a
Bob,
county
one of
issue.
the things the state of Indiana does have is a voucher program where you can utilize your tax dollars
Okay.
to follow your kid if you want to put them in a different school.
Okay, and then a friend of mine today, he removed his kid. And according to what he said, the principal told him that we'll be reporting him to CPS in 10 days. What is that all about? I'm just venting because I'm a frustrated parent, and I don't know where to go anymore, other than to homeschool my kid and be done with it. But I don't want to fund a school that doesn't want my kid there.
I would say that the best thing, Bob, would be to like research the voucher program, get some information on that if you don't want your kids at Hanover.
I love Hanover. I want her to go to school there, but I don't want her to wear a mask. I don't want her to be bullied because she's unvaccinated. Like, enough's enough. Not all of us believe in that stuff.
Understand?
So I'm looking for some kind of recourse.
That's the best recourse right now, I
Is
guess,
a voucher.
because you can't just, if every individual could direct their tax dollars.
Well, I'm just asking if I
think
could
the federal government would have $0.
I'm asking because there are no solutions to this, other than the school telling me just take my kid elsewhere.
Yeah.
But
It's crazy, right?
your thing in Indiana, though, is you do have some school choice.
Mhm.
So You would have to really research that. I don't know a lot about the program, so I can't really guide you a lot on that, Bob, but
Okay.
I'm sure on the internet you can find some information about
Yeah,
that.
I'm
and-
pretty handy at that.
And get a little guidance on that stuff, but, just do your homework on it.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know if this was the right place. I'm asking for options.
You know, there was a similar story tonight I heard on the radio. The kid didn't want to wear masks, so finally he started writing riddles on the mask. The answer, and then everybody started reading it, and then he liked his mask. So maybe,
You want an example?
take some pictures on it.
I work in Chicago, and I'm working on a school for CPS.
Sure.
The teachers demanded all construction workers to wear a mask outside. So I conformed, but I wrote crimes against children on it. And then they asked me to remove my mask. I said, no, you wanted me to comply. I'm compliant. You have to read it. I'm sorry.
Everybody does something different.
Right. I'm just saying, like, that's one example of a way to fight back. But here I'm left with a child with no school right now. And that's unfortunate.
The Lake County Health Department recently also mandated government buildings, right? But not schools, I don't think.
And I believe that final, consideration is supposed to be at the next county council meeting on the 14th.
Yeah. There's an anti-mask rally there.
Yeah,
So,
it'd be a good place to start.
Carol, you have a public comment?
Yeah, I have something I want
I'm
to
trying.
say, but I gotta address this being a registered nurse.
Name and address first, please.
Okay, Carol Kerr,
Thank you.
9900 West 129th Place. I called an ambulance over the weekend, and I have a known heart condition, congestive heart failure, and the guys came, they started an IV on me, and in a way they were saying, you know, your blood pressure's not that bad, this or that, and I kind of wondered why. Now I get it, because they really had nowhere to take me. And what's happening is people who aren't vaccinated and who aren't wearing masks, that's who's in the ICU. I have nurse friends that are still working, and that's who's in there. And that's a problem, that the person then who has been vaccinated, or who does wear masks, can't get in anywhere. So I wonder if I waited to Mercy and Dyer, it was a medication change, and I survived. But that's the problem. It's sort of like, your right then will mine begin. Those of us that are older, when we went to school, and I don't know if they still do that, you needed a polio shot, you needed all these immunizations, measles. No one realizes, but you cough and someone gets respiratory. You wouldn't think measles is respiratory. This thing, even if you survive it, and you don't wind up on a ventilator, I'd rather have my grandchild wear a mask than a ventilator. You are strapped down in leather restraints in the ventilator, and before we can give you medicine to knock you out, because you're going to wake up a little bit in between, you're going to be in pain. People who survive have 30% lung damage, even if you're not admitted to the hospital. A child that gets it, like my son got it, he had aches and pains, he has lesions on his lungs. So every time you get pneumonia, you have a lesion on your lung, you won't feel it. When you're 75 like me, you're going to feel it. So I just think with this thing, I don't understand it. I don't understand why. The science is there. This is an organism that's identified. It's carried respiratory. Why would a child can't make a decision. Their brain isn't that developed. The parent has to. If you don't want to do that, teach your child at home. Because you're affecting other people, and your child might get it and give it to grandma. Grandma won't make it. Because I've lost 4 friends in their 60s and 70s. I went to 4 wakes this year because of COVID. And this thing that's going around now, it's virulent. So I just want to give my opinion.
Thank you, Carol. We know that all those vaccines you named were all FDA approved.
Hey, Bob.
Clinical trials, not emergency.
Bob, you had your time, so, thank you.
Okay, what I wanted to say is, I'm sorry, Kubiak is in here, so I would apologize to him, because I
Thanks,
got
Bob.
harsh on him, and the very next day, under your direction, all that sandbag stuff was gone, and it looked great. All the neighbors are calling saying, hey, they did it, they did it, okay. I just found these 3 articles, I'm kind of upset. Okay, they're current, and I just want to tell you what other towns are doing. And I'm not going to read the whole article, it's too long, just picking out what I think is really important. Crown Point, wage increase proposed. Premium pay would be given to the city's full-time employees, a one-time payment between $2,500 and $3,000 this year, and would be funded through federal dollars given to the city with the COVID-19 relief. Have we looked into that, the COVID-19 relief? They're doing it in Crown Point, okay? A 6% raise would be given to every employee out of the gate. Okay, that's Crown Point. Hobart, these are all recent. There's an American Rescue Plan funding. The City Council on Wednesday authorized appropriation for the city's American Rescue Plan. Clerk Treasurer Wanger said Hobart will receive more than $6 million in federal funding through the program. But Hobart has obtained just more than $3 million so far. Mayor Brian Senecor said providing a stipend to first responders is a key component. Under his proposal, they will get $4,500 stipend, would be issued to police and firefighters who quote-unquote worked through this horrible front line during this pandemic. Advancing plans for the American Rescue Plan money, the panel also granted initial approval to ordinances that would increase employee salaries by a maximum of 2% to full-time civil employees, police, firefighters, and elected officials like you folks on the City Council. Okay, here's just one more. We'll be distributing the City Council has adopted an ordinance that appropriates $1.4 million of that money to go toward premium bonuses for city employees. $33.3 million. He hoped consensus could be formed. Goes on and on. Okay, giving bonuses to city employees was approved, 7-2. $3,000 for full-time employees with 5 or more years. Extraordinary service by these people. 1 day of government service was lost during not 1 day of service was lost during the pandemic. I don't think these guys took any days off, which also made people who plowed the snow and emptied the trash to get bonuses also. So I'm just saying, the proposed budget also included pay raises for both the council attorney, the financial advisor, and created a $75,000 position so the council can hire its own secretary. So I'm just saying, these other towns are doing it. I don't think people realize, I think the hospitals, we're always taught as a nurse, don't knock anything, don't show too much. But I think they really ought to hone in the consent of the patient and show what it looks like on a ventilator. Show what this nurse has to do. Show these people with these big air packs. I'm kind of grateful I'm retired. I don't know what I would do because you're risking your life. I dealt with AIDS and that was scary enough. I would undress in my garage, take a shower before I came home to my 2 little children and husband. So when you're saying, the little thing to put a mask on is to me a minute nothing compared to what the forefront people do. And you don't know until you're riding in that ambulance. You don't know until you're walking in that burning building. You don't know it, and I have a nurse friend now who's taking care of some kids at the community that are on a ventilator. And nothing could be more tragic. It's hard taking care of older people. I'm not saying we don't consider them. Hell, I'm old. But when you have a kid that's sick or a young teenager, it breaks your heart because you relate it to your own children, your own family. So if you can prevent something by wearing a mask, my grandfather died in 1919 of the flu epidemic, and my grandmother told me, if you went out of the house without a mask, you got arrested. That's the only way they stopped it in South Chicago. My grandfather was 7 high in a wooden box because they couldn't take him anywhere, and he's 21 years old. My dad was just a newborn. So I'm just saying, when people argue about all these rights, a lot of times our rights end where yours begin. You have the right to smoke a cigarette, you don't have the right to blow the smoke in my face, right? So to me, this is the same principle. That's, people can agree or disagree or make it a political thing. Go to the ICU and work, go in the burning building, chase the bad guy that's got a gun pointed toward you, then you get to talk. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Carol.
So is somebody working on these plans for you guys?
We have been working on them all along.
Oh, okay.
We're only getting $1,400,000.
Well, this year we approved mid-year raises for the fire department. Last year we raised the police department pay and the fire department pay. We've gone up in the last 2 years will be, a total of 15%?
Yep.
Yeah.
Plus, we had to do additional appropriations for the overtime created by COVID for the fire department, so we have been addressing this stuff all along. We just didn't call the newspaper to report it.
Oh.
We just do it.
And they don't cover our meeting.
Plans, or you're getting this money,
1.4 million.
Yeah,
We don't have any
Oh,
money.
that's what you said, I'm
The
sorry.
total's 2.8. We got our first installment.
And you're giving the police and the fire department raises and all of you folks?
The budget includes, like what I reported on tonight, the consideration of fulfilling what the needs of the department are, what they presented to us,
Okay.
and ways to sustain that. So that's the approach that we're taking. We're not looking to just hit it one time, we're looking to sustain these things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Kathy Kowalczyk, 10717 West 134th Place currently. In 30 days, I will be a resident of Rose Garden Estates.
Congratulations.
Thank you. What's my address going to be? There seems to be a little debate on addresses over there. Our property is south of 141st Street, but our address begins with 141. Then we were told it was going to be changed, so we had to agree to that, which we were fine, because we totally understand why it needs to be changed. And now we got another DocuSign today that says our address is going back to 14174.
And she's south of 142nd.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, you
That's
are.
142nd?
They're going through a plat of correction. The developer is going through a plat of correction in front of the plan commission to correct the addresses and make them what they should have been from the start, ma'am.
Right, because we're in the second phase.
But she was told, Father John showed me, that he said the letter today was told that they have been through the correction process and
And
they're
our
going to
address
stay.
is not changed.
No, they haven't been
Address is
approved.
not changed.
They have not gone officially before the plan commission with that change yet, ma'am. So I'm not sure why you got that information, but
Well,
they
that came to us from Lennar directly as a DocuSign, because we had to agree to an address change. And, I mean, we've lived here for a while, and we understand it all has to do with fire and police
Right.
response and
Right.
following the county grid and the whole 9 yards. I'm not upset about changing my
Right.
address at all. They're just not getting the point.
Well, I'm not sure why you got that correspondence from Lennar, but it was actually Chief Fisher who realized the discrepancy in the addressing, and we had a home, maybe like yours, that should have been 14100 and was 13900, for example. And if you, heaven forbid, you have a 911 call and you've got to have somebody come to your house and they're looking for 14100 and you're in the 13900 block,
They're never gonna find you.
they're not gonna find you in time. So this is an effort on our part to correct that. The addressing has been submitted to our town engineer. He's looked at it, and he's agreed with the changes, and it's just a matter of coming before the plan commission this month at the upcoming meeting for the plan commission to accept the plat of correction or certificate of correction, simply changing the addresses. Nothing else is changing. But I'm not sure if you could either get me a copy of your letter
Oh,
or...
I have it on my phone. I can show it to you after the meeting.
If Todd...
Just email it to him.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or my husband has it also.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it said we had a DocuSign to approve it, and that this was what our new corrected address was going to
Okay,
be.
so let me understand again, please. You were told the address was changing from one number to another, and now you're being told that the
Staying the
original address
Right.
is staying?
Because we live on a cul-de-sac,
Okay,
and everyone on our cul-de-sac, their address begins with 141. We actually have our brick address already put on the front of our house, as most of our neighbors do, that says 14174.
But you're south of 142nd Place, correct?
Correct.
I mean, you can't have that address.
I
So
know
that's
that,
why they're working on
and
it.
you told them that.
I have, I went through the subdivisions 2 months ago, I think it was, something like that, and we realized the address problem, that the entire subdivision was numbered 141, all the way down to 146th Avenue. Every house was 141. So it was caught right away, and we started talking about it. I think I've seen all of phase 3, which is the newest one we saw. Went through every one of the addresses to ensure that they're correct. But phase 2, I think, was where houses had already been built. And they were trying to work on how to correct those. But I know Rick, we talked about it today, he's been working diligently to ensure that the addresses are corrected, so.
Okay, so this is supposed to occur then before
They have to correct it, yes.
Beginning of October?
Yes, yes, they're supposed to be on the agenda, the Plan Commission's agenda for the 15th of this month.
Okay.
Correct? Yeah, next Wednesday. That's
Okay, I mean, I just still want to be paying for somebody else's mortgage with my address.
Yeah.
Well,
They were really
it's not
bad.
just that, it's like voter registration, license.
Exactly, I mean, and I understand the 911 response, that whole, I get that.
But it's everything.
Right, and
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, we've been dealing with Lennar, obviously, since we signed back in January. And their building is good. Mr. Kubiak gets kudos for, he makes sure our house is inspected well all the time, and everyone else's. But Lennar's biggest problem is lack of communication. I think maybe with you guys, definitely with us sometimes.
They're the nation's largest home builder, and I don't know if they're known as the nation's best communicators.
No, they're not.
We're addressing a lot of problems with Lennar.
Okay.
Yeah.
We now have a weekly meeting with them in their trailer. We actually have landscapers propping up their lawnmowers on fire hydrants and all kinds of stuff.
So we were there in the subdivision because we're having issues with them putting the dumpsters in front of the fire hydrants. His deputy chief had reached out to me about it, so I went to the dumpster company, making sure that the drivers weren't taking them there. And we believe that the people that are actually doing the construction are moving them to accommodate whatever they're doing in front of the residents. So as I'm driving around the rest of the subdivision, there's one of their brand new landscapers with the wood propped up against a brand new fire hydrant and his tractor sitting up in the air because the blade went bad. And he's using it as a lift. So I took the picture and I think he sent it out quite a bit, so.
Good Lord.
Well,
We had a slight discussion and he decided to take the tractor off the brand new fire hydrant.
Wow.
No, that was the landscaper, that wasn't.
Yeah,
No, I totally.
But they're supposed to be policing their own subdivision.
Yeah.
As far as watching their contractors for stuff like that, because it's been an issue. But
Right.
Yeah.
we actually had a pretty decent fire in there, a semi-cloud fire, and, there was a very good possibility, if it would have been a block away, we could have lost the building, because the hydrant would have been blocked, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's being worked on, and
Being worked on, yep.
pay attention to the Plan Commission meeting on the 15th.
I will.
That might be a good place to come to a meeting.
Oh, we will.
Okay.
Most definitely, and we sometimes we were the ones that have informed them of town rules or things that are supposed to be happening, and everybody claims, oh, I didn't know that, and I find that hard to believe,
They
but
know it.
they know.
They know exactly. They just wait till they're caught.
Exactly. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
You had public comment? Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is, Marvin McConnell. I live at 13428 Robin Drive.
Thank you for coming.
I'd like to tell you a little history. I retired, built my dream home in Cedar Lake in 2007, thinking I was moving in a community that enforce ordinances and laws. Picked a good subdivision, I thought. And my life now is invaded by noise pollution almost weekly. We have a neighbor with 2 stock cars that's constantly running his stock cars in his garage with the garage door open, no exhaust pipes, no mufflers. I live 200 to 300 feet away from his house. My TV's on, my air conditioner's on, and we wonder what all the noise is in the house. We go outside, the stock car's running in the garage, in the residence, in the subdivision. I approached the town manager and inquired about a noise ordinance violation, and he told me, he gave me a copy of the ordinance, and basically it says the police have to observe or listen to the noise violation. It's stipulated in decibels. The policeman is not going to be carrying a decibel meter with him. He's going to have to be dispatched to come over. If the car's not running, it's a dead call for him. All of the neighbors hear it. Most of the neighbors are concerned about it. it's a catch-22. We have a noise ordinance that can't be enforced by the police. It's annoying the entire neighborhood, and I don't know what to do or how to control the noise pollution in the neighborhood. We have neighbors that work shift work that are wakened by the stock car engines running, and we seem to get nowhere with the neighbor. Also, we have a 40-foot stock car trailer parked on the street next to his house in our subdivision. My front yard view from my porch and my house is a stock car trailer that's been there since May 1st that I know of. I'm a snowbird. I understand it was there before May 1st. It was there last year when I left to go to Florida in October. We're going on 2 years of having a storage trailer painted up with stock car numbers in it. That's our view from the porch to the house, plus we get all the noise pollution. I'm wondering if there's anything that the town can do about someone parking a storage trailer in a residential neighborhood for 5 months, going on 5 months. We seem to get nowhere with the neighbor. His insistence that he has an Indiana state license plate entitles him to park on the trailer. Homeowners Association said it's not our problem because it's parked on the city street. It's not parked in a lot in the subdivision. So we're getting no help from the Homeowners Association. The city seems to have their hands tied due to lack of witnessing noise violation. The guy's not going to run the car for an hour on end. He'll start it, run it for 5 minutes. By the time the police come, the car motor is off. This was my idea of a retirement life. Other neighbors are concerned about it. They're afraid to come forward and cause trouble in the neighborhood. But I'm in my wit's end. I don't know what to do. It's affecting my property value. When anyone comes to view a house and they see stock cars parked in the front lawn on holidays, storage trailers next to the house painted up with stock car numbers on it, I know it's affecting my property value. I can't see how much, but I'm sure glad I'm not selling my house now. Spoke to a few of the neighbors. They said it doesn't bother them. I said, well, when you sell your house, what are you going to do? They said, we're going to ask them not to start the engines, not to park the cars in the front yard, and move the trailer while they're showing their house. This isn't the way it's supposed to be in a residential neighborhood. I'd like to invite all of you here to come sit on my front porch and see my view of the stock car trailer, listen to the stock cars with no mufflers on them. Come on the holidays, you can see them parked in the front yard. His comment was, this is a recreational zoned community. It's his hobby, it's his right. I don't think his right trumps everyone else's peace of mind and property values. You're invited to come over and sit on the front porch and enjoy our view of the stock car trailer that's been there since May 1st. If you're lucky, we even get to hear him start.
Do you have monthly HOA meetings or yearly? This sure seems to me
I talked to
the
the
HOA issue more.
Noise violation is not an HOA issue. Parking a storage trailer on a public street in a residential neighborhood for 5 months is not a homeowners association problem.
I always thought that most HOAs restricted their, well, I know another subdivision that town does. They happen to own the streets.
They have to own the streets. We don't own the streets. We get no assistance from the homeowners association.
Marvin, can we get Chief Fisher to weigh in on this a little bit?
I like your comments and suggestions also, besides the invitation open.
Thank you, sir.
We have been at the residence on multiple occasions for complaints. The problem that we have is there's no ordinance violation when we get there. The trailer, albeit is in a terrible spot, and I understand, but it doesn't violate the ordinance, so it's nothing my officers can do. And he's exactly right that the officers are not going to write a ticket if they don't hear a noise violation, because that officer has to testify in open court, and an infractionable offense, they need to witness it by statute. So he's right. We can't write a ticket when we don't hear it.
What about cars parked on the lawn? Did you say he parks them on the...
Every holiday he parks stock cars on the front lawn.
That same question would be posed this way, is if you pulled your car into the front lawn to let somebody pull into your driveway or something like that, should I write you a ticket for doing that?
If they're just sitting there.
Doesn't matter, it's his
If I have a
property.
car, you
There's
know.
no license plates on the stock car.
And he's not driving them on the road. They're a special vehicle. They're not a regular car that requires registration.
So Bill, you're saying if I live in a neighborhood, park my snowmobile trailer all summer on the trailer, it's legal?
Yeah.
With no vehicle connected?
We've tried to have this enacted, and the last time we did, we had so many people from the public come in here.
I don't ever recall this.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We tried to get an ordinance where you couldn't park boats in front of the
I
house, you
remember
couldn't
the
park
boats, I
trailers.
remember semi-tractors.
Semi-tractors is a
But
violation.
I don't remember a trailer.
Semi-tractors is a violation, you can't park those in front of the
Right.
house.
It's all in the same thing.
Yep.
Recreational trailers, recreational vehicles, boats.
But to park it on a road
It was-
without a vehicle
it was
connected,
my-
I think is against our ordinance.
No, it was my second year, I think, on the council when that
Yeah.
came up, and this place was packed. And as passionate as people are against it, they are just as passionate, if not more passionate, for it. So.
It was very contentious.
It's one of those issues that is,
I pay $40 a month to park my RV in a lot at Crown Point. If I bring it park in front of the house, I get flack from the homeowners association. Could I bring a cattle hauling trailer and park it in front of my house for 6 months?
So you get the HOA gives you a ticket for the RV, but not a trailer?
No, you get harassed from the homeowners association for having your RV in front of your house.
what about that trailer? Is the homeowners association harassing that guy for the trailer?
They don't own the street.
So park your
But you
RV
said-
on the street, see what they say.
Well, I have more respect for my neighborhood.
Yeah, true, I understand.
But my question is, can I put a cattle trailer in front of my house for 6 months?
Sounds
with a
like, is
license
it
plate?
license plated? According to what Chief Fisher said, yes?
Don't say it according to me, it's the ordinance in which were written well before I even started here, so
I think
the
we need
ordinance
to
don't let us.
ask
I'm
for
telling you that we
legal
can't enforce it. I agree with the guy. I do. I would love to see that trailer moved, but we don't have anything that enforces us or allows our officers to force him to move that trailer, or me to tag it and tow it. We don't have anything.
Several cities have ordinances where commercial vehicles cannot be parked on the street over 24 hours.
Commercial motor vehicles are
vehicle?
correct. Huh?
Is that a commercial vehicle?
It is not.
Right, it's a
It's a
recreational.
recreational trailer.
Yeah. That's the difficulty of this.
I understand it's a difficulty, but you have to understand my point.
I do.
I put a big investment in the house when I built it, and we have company come over and ask us, is this pit row? We've got stock cars in the neighbors' front yards, we've got racing trailers parked around the house.
It's only one house. It's not anybody else in the whole subdivision. It's one house on the corner of an intersection.
Rick, have
It's one
you
house.
in other communities ran across this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
It's always a hot issue.
It's
It
always
is.
a hot issue, because you've got the pros and you've got
Well,
the
you
cons.
got people say, well, I pay taxes too,
Right.
right? Why don't I get to park my recreational vehicle here?
Yeah.
It's got license plates on it.
In the other communities that I've served, they have each took a different approach to this. And one took the approach that you could not park any kind of a recreational vehicle or trailer on the streets. You could have it in your driveway as long as it didn't overhang a public sidewalk. The other took the position that you can have those types of, I'll call them vehicles or pieces of equipment, parked there 6 months out of the year, from April 1 to September 30th. But the rest of the other 6 months of the year, they couldn't be parked anywhere in a residential zone subdivision unless it was in a fully enclosed garage. And of course, you know, most lots aren't large enough to have a garage that could house a vehicle of that size. So effectively, they outlawed that kind of parking in residential areas 6 months out of the year. They both outlawed that kind of parking on the street. They wouldn't allow those vehicles on the street. They had to be in a driveway, on a paved surface of some sort, and not overhanging a public way.
Could you adopt an ordinance similar to that, so we don't have to look at someone else's storage.
I'm gonna tell you right now, as passionate as you are about that, there will be 100 people in here screaming against it.
That's what Mr. Niemeyer is saying, they tried about 10 years ago, and they...
And I don't recall the trailer only, I only recall.
It was nuts.
Boats.
When I was in
Boats, campers, trailers, recreational vehicles, all of it. We were trying to get an ordinance enacted to
But
help.
if a trailer
save-
is not hooked up to a vehicle.
Right. And
It
it's
shouldn't be
properly
on a
plated,
street.
well, it's not a violation.
Even if it's properly plated, it shouldn't be sitting on a street without a vehicle connected to it.
John,
That's common sense, I think,
You
John.
were one that people were yelling at
Oh,
at
yeah.
the meeting for that stance.
Yes,
Right.
because it's,
But I'm just saying,
you should build just park a snowmobile
this is
trailer
not an
all
easy
summer on the
blanket
street,
thing to
even if
come
it's
up with.
license plated. We as a town should not allow it.
We're not Dyer, we're not St. John, we're a community with a lake in it where people have boats, they have recreational vehicles, that's what people
So
walk.
if your neighbors park their boat trailer with no vehicle connected to it all throughout your subdivision, what would you do? I live on a main thoroughfare, so I don't.
Listen, I'm not home enough to give a darn. Okay, so whatever's outside my house, I don't know it's there.
Well,
It's not there.
Mr. Foreman, I agree with you, it shouldn't be happening, but we don't have an ordinance that affects that. It's
Let me
common
ask
sense.
Mr. Austin, what does our ordinance state? Do you recall? And/or could you dig into this and let us know?
I've dug into it before.
Okay.
I can really find it.
I think it's worth revisiting, because I wasn't aware
I'll
that
tell you
you
what,
park your
if
trailer.
you wanna revisit it, put on the agenda, I will
You're gonna have
relinquish
your
the
gavel?
gavel.
No, not to me, not to me right now.
No, to John.
Oh, to John.
And I'll sit down there and I will watch. Okay, it'll be like a bonfire, I'll just warm my hands by the fire, and open watch.
I'll have extra security on.
Mr. President.
That'll be fun.
But sir, hey sir.
Ask your town manager and your police chief to take a look at this before.
Yeah.
We will.
You may suggest that. You can suggest whatever you want, Dave.
Thank you.
So Dave made a suggestion.
We don't want to spin our wheels. I mean,
No, they're wasting
When
their
this
time.
came up, I spoke with Bill about it, he filled me in about this history, and I completely sympathize with this
So do I.
gentleman's situation. I wouldn't, I can tell you right now, if this house was for sale, I wouldn't buy it. I don't care how much I like it, because of that kind of situation. But I was told that this has come up in the past.
I actually heard that you like to drive stock cars secretly.
Oh, you heard wrong. You gotta check that hearing, because, and when I was growing up, I had a neighbor who had a stock car, and, he actually drove it on our street, and my gosh, the racket that made. But anyway, if the will of the council is not to pursue this, Bill and I don't, we have more important things to do than to create something that's gonna die anyway. I'd be happy to do it if
It had to
you
be
wanted
no
to see it.
further than the front of their home parked, so that it's not, I don't think you're allowed on the street.
That was
We need to-
definitely
If
the
you guys
ordinance.
could dig into it and let us know, I'm pretty
That
sure.
was definitely the ordinance that was
You seem to
proposed.
be the only one out of us that wanna do that.
Well, I'm just saying.
John, that was the ordinance that was proposed when
I
we had
asked
the people.
legal suggested these two guys get together and at least educate us.
But you know what? I haven't heard anybody else but you say something.
So let's take an
I
objective.
just wanna say that I
An
think.
objective look, John, I can drive through neighborhoods, okay, and as Marvin stated here, this is the only one in Robin's Nest, right, that's like this.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if I drive through.
Billy said yes.
It is.
Okay, if I drive through Utopia, there's probably one or two things parked on the street once in a while. I drove through Lindsway the other day, I've just been driving some neighborhoods, there's one RV parked on the street, one. The point I'm getting to is one of the things that's a challenge here, when we come up with legislation, is legislating for the broad application of something.
Sure.
Okay, when you have a dozen, 24 instances, does it warrant going through the process of legislation? Or is this an issue of respect between neighbors?
Well.
Does government always have to solve the problem?
No, not necessarily, however.
Because sometimes government is the
Vehicles
problem.
that are not drivable, just a trailer, sitting idle, creates a safety hazard for one.
But from
for
a
the
pragmatic
community.
sense, John,
You can't see around it.
as
You go to
legislators,
pass
do we
it, you
legislate
get-
the rule or
hit a
the
kid.
exception? What do we legislate, the rule or the exception?
Well, I think you should legislate the common sense rule
Right,
of what's
the
best
rule
for the
was-
majority of the people.
But if
you
you only have a couple
I don't care if
dozen
it's a snowmobile trailer, I have 3 trailers, okay? I license them all. So that means I can drive those over to your neighborhood and park them and leave them all here?
Listen, if the fire department was saying, listen, we drive around every neighborhood of this community and we can't get our fire trucks around, now that's legislating the rule because it's affecting more people. But if you have a dozen cases or a couple dozen cases throughout a community of 18 or 19,000 people, say you have 5,500 addresses and you have 20 of these cases, are we gonna legislate?
I'm not saying I'm
A half
for or
a
against
percent?
it, I'm just surprised that we allow it without a vehicle connected to it.
You may be right.
I'm thinking that is not the case. I think we should at least have you two.
Well, I'd be happy to research the ordinance and
Research.
report to you as to what it says. I've already
Yeah.
been told what it says, but, and I've looked at it, but it's been, when Marvin and I first talked about this several months ago, so it's been a while.
I think it's appalling that Marvin's neighbor is that disrespectful.
I do too.
Agreed.
I-
People should have more respect for one another.
Yeah, I would not.
But we can't legislate
Marvin,
respect.
I have to say this though, if he's running that car at nighttime and it's bothering you, you have to call us right away. There's no way around it.
Okay, what he does is tunes up his car. He'll run it for 5 minutes and shut it off.
I know.
By the time you call 911 or call the police department, if you just send a policeman over, it's the policeman's word against his that he's violating noise ordinance. All he has to do is go to court and say you don't have a decibel meter to say how loud it was, get out of here. So we have an ordinance, noise ordinance that's unenforceable.
Well, it doesn't have to necessarily have a decibel meter in the ordinance because there's, parts of the ordinance that Mr. Austin wrote that basically talks about, what's the word I'm looking for? A nuisance to you. Whether we have a decibel meter or not, it doesn't matter, it's a nuisance to the public, right? So, what if you record it? You have a cell phone?
I live 300 feet away and the whole house vibrates.
And by calling Marvin, keep making reports of it, eventually they're gonna catch him.
Right.
Okay?
I know you think you're bothering us, but you're not.
Patrol, eventually they're gonna catch them. But you gotta report it. It can't go unreported. And the
I don't know
police
where it
have
is.
to be the ones that you report.
I'm not worried about the stock car running in the man's garage, but trailers parked on our street.
But that's the biggest problem is the stock car running in the garage.
No, it's a combination of the two.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I wake up in the morning, I get to see a stock car trailer.
I understand, sir.
While I'm eating lunch, I have to watch it.
I understand, I agree with you.
Chief,
Yes,
if
sir.
he records it, if he pulls out his cell phone and records it.
The sound?
Yes.
Yes, I can't guarantee that my officers will write a citation right away because it's officers' discretion in the state of Indiana. But the more calls they get, I promise you, the more
they'll patrol more.
Frustrated they will be about it, and citations will be issued.
My neighbor to the left is a nurse, works shift work.
Sure.
She's woken during the daytime and the weekends. 2 doors down, she's a ER nurse, she's awakened.
I do know, sir, I lived in the subdivision, so I know the people there. I understand, I respect, I do. I understand. I really do. We just don't have an enforceable ordinance against the trailer, and the noise part of it, we just have to hear it because it's an infraction in Indiana.
Please call,
Yes.
when you get this noise, call every
It doesn't
time.
block any stop
You
signs.
may
It's far
feel
enough
like
away
you're being a
from all.
nuisance, but the more record you make of it, the better chance it has at being resolved. Just don't let it be ignored.
The police says they're fully
What?
aware of it, they've been aware of it.
But keep calling. Keep
one,
calling.
the noise?
Keep calling the police. Pick up that phone and call.
I feel like I'm cheating the community.
You're not, Marvin, you're not. You're a valued taxpayer, you're not cheating the community by reporting things that are
Absolutely not.
against the law.
Absolutely
You're
not.
helping
Call
the
us.
community.
Please call
Get
us.
a Ring doorbell.
I'm gonna come by tomorrow. How's that
2
sound?
years ago, I received a parking ticket violation on my car in my driveway when I was in Florida. My license plate expired.
Florida people.
I received a ticket, I couldn't get back in time to protest it or go to the courthouse, it cost me $185.
Sure.
To get a parking ticket in my own driveway. I've got to look at some.
Well, that's not a parking ticket, it was probably a violation because it was an invalid registration, correct?
Yes,
Right.
I'm in my driveway.
Yeah, because it has to be registered.
I understand.
And we have that ordinance as well.
Well, how hard would it be to get an ordinance, you can't drop a trailer without being attached to a vehicle for 6 months?
Very hard.
What about a month?
I'm just, the whole recreational thing is a very difficult thing in this community to tackle. It's very difficult.
I thought we had it though, where you, if you have
Sir,
a boat, you have to
hey,
get
sir,
work.
I'm gonna
Next
come by
to
and
your
see you
house,
tomorrow,
Randy.
okay? What time are you, we almost
I
today?
thought we had that in all.
I can check on it.
The afternoon? I'm gonna give you my card, will you call me when you're home?
Better
No, I can't.
We just call my office when you get home, and then I'll come by.
All right.
Thank you, Marvin.
I just have one more thing to say, it's really important.
Carol,
Yeah.
everything you have to say is important.
Well, thank
Please
you.
tell us.
I ran that man out of here, I didn't mean to do that. But anyway, the word of Herios is that this gentleman over here won some money, and he had, the town councilman there. He wasn't in there.
I don't know anything.
And he won $55,000, we
Yeah,
were told.
and he had a party, excuse
No.
me,
John.
at Herios, they're saying 2 parties. Were any of us invited?
Yes.
You were. Were any
Carol,
of us
hey,
invited?
Carol, I was not invited anywhere.
Carol,
we were
You
friends.
No.
Were you there?
you and I will talk about, you and I will talk about this agenda item later.
Hey,
I normally do.
Were you there? Hey, if your dad was there, I'll come. I met his dad.
Todd, I think you're his agent now.
Carol, I didn't invite you, but you don't hang up on me when you called me. When I was.
Yeah.
Can I get her on the payroll? Make her
Who
fire
had come to
safety?
the party? If Coogie had come in those military boots, no.
No, he did not.
He did not.
No, he's not. This was an exclusive party just for,
Did you get invited to both parties, too?
You had some parties? I don't know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
look at, we
We had
were.
2 parties.
Herios was never wrong.
I wouldn't believe rumors, Carol.
Carol,
I wouldn't believe rumors, Carol.
I'm upset that I didn't get invited to either of them.
Did you know that he won all that money?
No, I just found out.
I mean, seriously, did, no?
No.
Were any of the town council there?
I wasn't.
You wasn't?
Carol. No, it's business.
I'm sorry, but that,
No, it's business. It's a rumor, Carol.
Sounds like it was rigged.
Herios is never wrong, we found out.
Herios is never wrong.
Okay, any other public comment?
But it's the truth, right? Then you did have
Any
two
other
parties.
public comment? Third call? No public comment?
council informing does get back.
Our next council meeting will be
Let's work
on
on something.
December 21st. At 7 PM, preceded at 6:30 by a utility board meeting. This meeting is adjourned.